Shalom, peace, and greetings again, friends and fellow believers. Thank you for clicking on part 2, titled All About Jesus, or Yeshua, our Messiah. And in part 1, we have a new camera, and it went more than 10 minutes on a video, a digital camera, our Sony. But somehow the batteries died, and I can't figure out how to recharge them yet, so we're going on our older camera here, the Canon digital camera. And so now we can see a difference between the two in technology. And if you have any input or advice on how to improve any of this, whether it be technology or truth, you know, I'm learning as I go. I'm growing too. And so as we get feedback, as we go into the scriptures together and reason with them together, we can sharpen iron together. You sharpen me, I sharpen you, and a few sparks may fly, but please don't get offended by them, and let's grow together. And I think I left off where the batteries died on the previous camera is in Revelation chapter 3, and this is where our Messiah is speaking here. He says, "He who overcomes, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God." As we read in the English here, he says, "My God, and he will go out no more." Hopefully this is referring to us and you. "I will write on him the name of my God." Interesting. Here is our Messiah saying he's going to write on us the name of his God. Is it all about him? He's not making this statement here. He says, "And also the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down from the heaven from my God." Again, "I will write on him my new name." So even our Messiah is going to have a new name. And I don't think it's going to be Greek or English. It's probably going to be more Hebraic, Hebrew. This is the language of the prophets and the apostles. And what they were all Jewish. They were all Israeli or Levites and of the different tribes. And Abraham wasn't even an Israelite. I hope we can see that he was born before Israel. Israel was his grandson, Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. Isaac wasn't an Israelite. They were Hebrews. And so that's why you hear people out there saying, we want to restore our Hebrew roots. And to do that, we have to overcome any anti-Semitic prejudice or attitude or anything that we've had ingrained in us from our childhood or from our society in any way. Because Israel is the firstborn son, as we read about in the book of Deuteronomy, in Moses' writings, that Israel is the firstborn son, the first nation that our Creator chose to be his special nation, and children in that way. And we are to be grafted in. In Romans chapter 11, Paul talks about us as the wild branches grafting into the same tree. And not some different tree, not some kind of a replacement theology, but being grafted in, truly grafted in. And this is what our Messiah taught as well, the gospel which he brought to us, and even to us today. And I would like to also read in Mark chapter 12, because it's important to understand the first commandment here. And as we read in chapter 28, and I have here in the New King James Bible here, and you can read in whatever translation, you know, it's pretty similar here. And let me know if you find anything different. On here in verse 28 of Mark chapter 12, "Then one of the scribes came, having heard them reasoning together." So here a scribe is overhearing this conversation with the Messiah. And he didn't see him as the Messiah at the time, of course, but perceiving that he answered them well, asked him. So here's the scribe asking him sincerely. He says, wow, this Jewish carpenter over here is giving some good answers. So he asks him, which is the first commandment of all? What is it all about? What is the first commandment? And the Messiah answered him and said, the first commandment of all the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And in Hebrew it's Shema, Israel. Yehovah Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Echad in Hebrew is one. And so you can say Adonai if you don't like pronouncing the Hebrew name, if you think it's too sacred. A lot of people are still there in that their understanding. It would say, Hear, O Shema Israel. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And so he continues here. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength, all your vitality. This is the first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. Now, we're all familiar with this story, but I want you to notice what comes next here. This is very important to meditate on, to think about, to pray about. So the scribe said to him, Well said, teacher. So this scribe is very sincere. He's not a bad guy. He's like, well said. But notice how he wants to try to get it a little bit more explicit here. What do you mean by one? Here he says, Well said, teacher, you have spoken the truth. For there is one God, and there is no other but He. So here he fine-tunes it into more of a singularity, He, because God, Yahweh, Elohim, can have plurality to it, and most of you probably understand that and have researched it to a degree. But here the scribe is trying to take the ambiguity, the ambiguous potential of this name, and fine-tune it down to more explicit in what he means here. And so he continues, this scribe says, and to love Him with all your heart and with all your understanding. And we're all, like I said, sincere. We're innocent when we're wrong. Those of us who are sincere believers, and we are worshiping the best we can, the best we know how. But let's try to go into deeper understanding. And this scribe here is trying to lay it down in a more explicit way. He says, with all the soul and with all the strength, and to love one's neighbor as oneself, is more than all the whole burnt offerings and sacrifices. This scribe is saying that it's even greater than all the sacrifices and burnt offerings. So when Yeshua, our Messiah, saw that he answered him wisely, now here's our Messiah's opportunity to try to correct him if he's wrong, or if he's saying anything that's off base or off track or too old school, so to speak. He answered him wisely and said to him, You are not far from the kingdom of God. And after that, no one dared to question him. So the scribe had answered well, our Messiah answered well, and so let's try to understand our Messiah and truly understand that He is the Son of the living God. He is the Mashiach. He is one with the Father. He is the Word which became flesh, the wisdom,